During this video, we will cover the 3 Ds of CPTED: design, definition, and designation. Design refers to how all human space is designed to support and control the desired behaviors. Definition refers to how all human space has social, cultural, legal, or physical definitions that prescribe the desired and acceptable behaviors. Designation refers to how all human space has some designated purpose. The first video in this series explained the 3 main concepts of CPTED: natural surveillance, natural access control, and territorial reinforcement. All 3 of these main concepts and the 3 Ds of CPTED can be achieved or enhanced by using proper landscaping. Natural surveillance is critical in public spaces like parks and trails, travel paths, parking lots, plazas, entrances, and pedestrian pathways. Using proper landscaping can enhance sightlines, allow for maintained visual connections, and even bring more normal or legitimate and welcome users to the space. However, improper landscaping can provide abnormal users with areas of concealment and staging areas, and can even create opportunities for offenders. For example, vegetation can grow to provide an area of concealment, or if an area has not been maintained, it will be more likely to attract abnormal users and conceal misuse of public spaces. This was highlighted in our first video when the broken windows theory was first discussed. Maintenance plans are an essential part of landscaping design, as they ensure that sightlines and visibility are preserved around and through the design space, so that users can visually control the space around them, even when seated, and they ensure that overgrown landscaping and tree canopies do not interfere with lighting or fields of view for video surveillance cameras. One simple guideline that all maintenance plans should follow is the 2-foot A-foot standard. This states that low ground cover should not exceed 2 feet high, and high tree cover and canopies should be cleared of limbs to 8 feet or higher. This will preserve sightlines and facilitate visual connections for users, even when seated. The tree species selection can have a significant influence over the resulting sightlines and the effective implementation of CPTED principles, including the maintenance plan. For example, if large conifers are used to create a celebrated entranceway, they can become overgrown and limit the pathway. Also, the shape of a large conifer can naturally create an area of concealment at its base for abnormal users, misuse of space, and criminal offenders. This will cause normal users to be more likely to use alternative entrance points, rather than the desired celebrated entranceway. Coniferous vegetation tends to fill out close to the ground and requires careful maintenance to avoid creating potential areas of concealment near public spaces. Conifers that are planted too close to building walls or in low traffic areas are particularly prone to this type of misuse. When using coniferous shrubs and bushes along trails and in parks, it is important to use small conifers that will not impede the desired pathways or interfere with sightlines on either side of a pathway. Pedestrians should be able to visually control a space extending out 10 meters along each side of a pathway to create a greater sense of safety for legitimate users and fewer opportunities for concealment for any unwelcome activity. If coniferous trees are being used in the space, they should be maintained so that normal users have a view corridor between the trees, and the branches are maintained to facilitate sightlines. Coniferous vegetation can be used to highlight the desired pathways, control the flow of pedestrian traffic, and create natural access points. For example, using maintained 4 feet high coniferous hedges can provide more visually appealing territorial reinforcement than fencing. And it can also lead normal users to desired entrance points and pathways. Deciduous trees tend to fill out their canopies higher from the ground. This allows for improved sightlines at pedestrian scale and better visualizations for pedestrians, drivers, pedestrian scale lighting fixtures, and CCTV cameras. However, when deciduous trees are not maintained, they can interfere with higher level, post-mounted lighting and other higher features that may be used in CPTED. For example, deciduous trees may interfere with sightlines from upper floor windows, which limits the natural surveillance for surrounding public spaces. Always ensure that deciduous trees are planted sufficiently far from windows, balconies, and roofs to prevent the creation of a natural ladder that may compromise security. Deciduous trees can be used as a more visually appealing security measure as well. For example, lining a property with deciduous trees can provide visually appealing greenery and shade while restricting vehicular access. Deciduous trees can also be used to create celebrated entrance points that limit the potential for areas of concealment while guiding normal users to positive activity generators. Landscaping can be used to lead pedestrians and vehicles to desired entrance points and onto desired pathways through public areas. Creating celebrated entranceways using landscaping can provide normal users with a sense of safety and security while drawing them to the desired entrances. Decorative bollards, water features, large stones, and trees can be used to create these celebrated entrances, while also preventing vehicle access to pedestrian-only areas. An important element to the celebrated entranceway is defining a clear pathway, leading from the entrance point to the positive activity generators and the parking spaces. This will facilitate wayfinding for normal users and make the positive activity generators the focal point. Strategically placing landscaping, such as trees, bushes, vegetation, and stones, allows pedestrians to identify and remain on the desired pathway through the space and can also prevent vehicle access. For example, lining a park with trees can prevent vehicle access, lead drivers to the desired entrance to the parking lots, and help normal users identify park boundaries. Planting hostile vegetation, like dense thorn bushes, in appropriate areas can prevent abnormal users from entering the space in negative locations, such as through or over a fence. These strategies can also be used to enhance territorial reinforcement. Fences are often used for territorial reinforcement. However, fences can hinder natural surveillance and visual connections. If fences are to be used, options such as anti-climb, transparent, or decorative fencing should be used to avoid hindering natural surveillance and visual connections. Proper use of landscaping can create real and symbolic barriers and can enhance territorial reinforcement while maintaining natural surveillance. For example, maintained garden, hedges that do not exceed 4 feet maximum, or hostile vegetation, which is any form of vegetation that can harm unwelcome users, can be employed to create barriers. Real barriers include such objects as knee walls, fences, bollards, and other structures that can limit or prevent pedestrian or vehicle movement. Knee walls are an effective substitute for fences, as they are not tall enough to hinder sightlines and can provide normal users with a place to sit, which will bring in more eyes to help monitor the space. Other more decorative options for real barriers include water features, large stone features, and other maintained garden features of sufficient size. Keep landscaping around seating areas and benches low and easy to see over or through, so that legitimate users can visually control the space around them, especially when they are seated and may feel more vulnerable. The application of CPTED design principles in landscape planning for public spaces can have a significant impact on the safety and well-being of normal, legitimate users, so long as the landscaping and the lighting are well maintained. When applied thoughtfully and early, good CPTED design principles can be effective in creating built spaces that welcome positive activities and reduce the fear and incidence of crime. Look for our next video where we will discuss the importance of proper lighting as an essential component of CPTED security design. Future videos in this series will address some of the more interesting aspects of CPTED management and design principles in further detail. For assistance with your project or property, please do not hesitate to contact 3SI Risk Strategies. We are here to help.